back to Wandering Off Track, and today we're going to be showing you the new bull bar we got. Well, second hand, but new to us, and what we're going to do to it. So we've been looking for a bull bar for a little while. We're actually going to wait till the four drive shows came up to see if we can get a good deal on one, but a Surveyor factory bar actually came up on Facebook Marketplace for 200 bucks. So we thought, why not? So I looked into it a bit, and I don't really like the look of how they are factory with the chrome, but we managed to look up a few images of people that painted them fully black, and I reckon they actually look pretty decent. So we thought, why not just put it on for now, see if we like it. It's only $200. So we'll show you what it looks like. So obviously this is what the front looks like standard, and this is the bar that came off an 08 Prado. It's a bit beaten up, but not too bad. Normally with these you have to polish them up like quite regularly to keep them shiny, but it's also got a little bit of colorization to the fog lights, but luckily the stock fog lights that came on the front bumper that we have are in really good nick. So we should be able to just straight swap them and then just get new lenses for the indicators and that. But the plan is to paint all of this black, which should look a bit better. So we just need to sand it down and put some etch primer on it before painting it. And then with these parts here, we'll use some, it's called Mr. Black, I believe, by Bowden's, and it's like a plastic rejuvenator, and it actually looks like it works really well. So we're just going to put it on these sections here just to make it all look pretty smick. We'll take this light bar off. It's only an eBay one for now, and then we'll probably get some spotties to go just in these little mounts here, which should be good. But yeah, and this one actually is winch compatible already. It has the brackets, so the 08, 09 ones came with the brackets for it. So for 200 bucks, we thought, why not give it a go? And yes, the first thing we're going to do is just start sanding it, which I've already got the sandpaper from when we did the rims. So we'll give that a go first, and then we'll get into etch priming it. So the first thing you want to do is just go get some sandpaper from, say, Bunnings. So it's a wet and dry sandpaper. So how it works is you dip it in water, and then you just rub it on there. So it means it's a bit easier to use because it's got that water there which helps it glide along, and then you just keep dipping it in the water as you go. So the first one I'm going to start with is a 240 grit, so that should get deep into the aluminium there and get off all the gunk that's on there. And then from there we'll go through different levels. So I've got I think a 400, an 800 maybe, and then a 1200 to finish off. So you'll see as you go, it starts off pretty rough, and obviously you're getting off all the years of gunk that's on here. But as you keep going, it'll start getting smoother, and that's when you know you're getting close to like a better finish. But this being the 240 grit will be quite gritty, obviously. So then we're going to go up to the 800 and then the 1200, and that's when it'll be real smooth and give it that nice finish. But the purpose of doing this is, one, it gets all the gunk off, and then two, it gives the surface a rougher texture for the paint to adhere to, so it stays on there for longer and gives you a better finish. So it does take a little while, but it's definitely worth doing. And yeah, so I'll do a little time lapse as I go and just show you the whole process. As you can see, it's a bit shinier now. It's obviously very scratched up, but we've got a lot of the rust or build up out of it. I'll need to go over this section here a little bit more, but it has made a lot of difference getting all the oxidation and things out of there. You can see here this side's got a little bit in there, but it's pretty good compared to this side, which has got these black marks on all the bit of a surface rust kind of gunk on it. So if you look, for example, this post versus this post. So what we're working to get is to get all of this off, to then get a nice scratched up surface like this for the paint to bond to. So all of this is what we're getting off, which is actually coming off reasonably easily, especially with the 240 grit, and then we'll go over it with the 800 and 1200. When you want to change the sandpaper, so like as you can see here, it's very smooth now and it's all cut up, so that's pretty much lost all its grittiness, so that's pretty much useless. And you'll notice as soon as you grab a new bit, it'll start gripping up so much harder, so you know that you've run out of what you can do with this bit here, and you need to grab a new piece. So don't be scared using it, they're only $1 each for this whole sheet, but just ensure that you're getting what you can out of it. So we'll keep going and do the other half and see how we go. It's important to note too that what you want to get out is like all of these areas in here, because if you don't, then you'll notice that the paint will start blistering and it won't bond properly. So it's important that you really get into all these nook and crannies, not just do the big areas, because there's quite a bit that builds up in those areas, so you need to make sure you get all of them out so the paint bonds properly. So that's the first round of sanding done. So as you can see, it's roughed up most of it. It's got rid of all that black and rust that was sitting there. Same with down here. So it's actually come up pretty good. Some of these bars over here now shiny and nicely scuffed up. So now we'll go over with a 800. First, actually, I'll take off this bar just so I can do that top bar properly. So this light bar, and then after that we'll go over it with the 800 and see how we're looking, and then go the 1200 before starting masking it off so we can give it a prime. Okay, so we've done all of it now in 240, so I took that LED bar off. So I think these don't actually come factory. It looks like someone's welded on these mounts for a bar, but they work, I guess, if I want to put a flat bar on there. I was looking at possibly doing the quad spotties down here, or just some 7-inch round ones, but we'll see how we go. And it's good that it's also got this aerial mount up here, because I guess it's important to note what you want a bull bar for. So up here in the NT, I would say probably 3/4 to almost all four-wheel drives have bull bars up here. A lot of people traveling long distances at high speeds, just in case of animal strikes and things like that. It's also really good because you can mount accessories like spotties and an aerial really easily, so that's what we wanted it for. And then of course there's the aesthetic purpose, because they obviously look really tough, and that just adds to the look of the whole vehicle. But it is important when you are doing something like this in painting that you put a lot of effort into the preparation, because the preparation will end up being the main purpose to why it looks good. I've done a lot of paint jobs in the past when I was first doing them, and I didn't put as much effort into the preparation, and you notice that you get little cracks, you get just build up of areas of paint where it doesn't stick properly, and you just notice it, and you're pretty, even though you're rushing and you wanted to get done as soon as possible, you do feel as if you had put the effort in, you'll obviously get a better result just from putting that extra 10-15 minutes into sanding, or taking something off properly, or putting on more etch primer, etc. So now we've done that first level with the 240, we're going to go up to what I have next, which is the 800. So we'll go over it with this now, and then we'll see how it is, and then we may put on the 1200 grip as well. Grit now. It's definitely coming up a lot shinier now, so we're just giving it that extra finish. You can see here we've got all of the gunk out of it. It's nice and then scuffed up, ready for some primer. I'm going to go over it with the 1200 just really quickly, just to make sure it's alright. But yeah, definitely really worth doing, and just make sure there's a really good surface for it. Now we'll note there is other ways of sanding. You can use obviously orbital sanders and other kind of tools, but Just moving here to Darwin, I haven't got all my tools with me, so I'm just going to be doing it by hand, which is a lot of effort, but I do find for a lot of all these areas anyway, it's easier to do them by hand because you can go around the surface with your hand, where a sander may be more difficult, like an all-wheel sander or something like that. So we are also trying to do all this on a budget and just see how far we can get with only using hand tools and things like that. It is worth noting, I think you can actually take a lot of these trim pieces off, but I'm just going to see how far I get without having to do that, and just to see if it does finish well. If there are little gaps where I can still see silver, etc., I will take those trim pieces off and then paint them, but I'm going to see how far I get just like this. So I've got it all sanded down now, so I've just set up some drop sheets around just in case we get any overspray. And what we're going to be doing next is using this wax and grease remover on some cloths to just wipe down the surfaces so they're all clean of any contaminants, so that the primer can stick properly. So that's what we're going to do now. Just get this from Bunnings as well, about $10, $12. Just get a bag of rags is what I normally do, and then we'll just wipe this down and go from there. So now that we've wiped it down, I'm just going to grab some masking tape, mask up all these trim areas and these light areas and just everything that's not going to be painted. Best to be more thorough than possible, and just to make sure you've got everything covered, just so you don't get any overspray or anything. Just give it that clean finish. Just going to go everything over. So I managed to get it taped up. I had to use some gaffer tape because I ran out of masking tape, but should do the job for now. And I've also actually managed to remove these trim pieces that were up here and on the back here, which meant there was less to mark up. I'm not going to bother sanding where that was, just because I know it's going to be covered up. So they're the trim pieces over here. I'm actually able to remove this whole side piece, but I wasn't able to from the other side because the bolts were seized. But yes, now the first thing we're going to do is put on this etch primer. So I'll wipe it down with wax and grease remover one more time just to make sure it's all clean. But this etch primer is going to be the base for where the paint's going to adhere to. So we'll just do a couple of coats of that, let it dry, and then we'll go with the black paint after that. Primer's applied now. I'm actually quite happy with the finish. It doesn't have many imperfections or anything, and it's actually stuck really well. So I've put one pretty thick layer on there now, so this will be a really good base for the black paint that comes next. But I might just go over it once more after this, make sure we've got all areas covered, all the little nooks and crannies, and then we'll move on to the next part after that. So we're done with the primer. Seems to be nice coverage, everything's looking good. So we're going to go ahead and start putting on the paint. So I've got this epoxy enamel metal shield from Bunnings as well. It's in the gloss black. It's actually what I did my rims in, so it'll be similar to this colour here. It's good that I had some paint left over, plus it actually then will tie in nicely with matching the wheels. So we're going to start applying the first coat now. So we've done a first coat now. We've got one area that's the spray can stuffed off a bit, so it's got a few imperfections, so I'm going to sand that back quickly with a 1200 grit. And we're actually going to change it to a satin black. We think the satin might work a bit nicer, show off the angles better instead of the gloss, plus you won't see any imperfections as easily. But other than that, it's actually turned out really well so far, so we'll try the satin, see if it looks better. If we prefer the gloss, we'll go back to the gloss. But we'll give that a go first. So we've done a couple of coats now of the satin black. I'm definitely more a fan of the finish that it gives than the gloss. It just looks a bit tougher. It's hard to see with the lighting at the moment, but it does have a little bit of shine to it, but it's closer to that flat finish. But it does show the features and the angles of the bar a lot more than the gloss. So I'm just going to let that dry. And I've actually taken the trim pieces and I'm going to give them a go painting them, just because I've still got some leftover satin black. So I know you can use the vinyl, not the vinyl, the trim restoring kits, but I'm going to try giving them a paint because I've seen some people have done it. So I've just applied the primer to it first, after sanding it, just to give it a surface to adhere to, and then hit it with the satin black. And it seems to be applying really well actually. That piece there is still drying. So I'm going to give them all a bit of a spray just so they match correctly, and then I'll have to go unmask these areas here and then do the same with them. Once everything's dried a bit, I'm going to maybe unmask this section here now and see if I can clean it up a bit, and then give it a shot painting it in the satin black as well, just so it all matches. But yeah, that's what we're up to so far. So this is the finished product. It's left to dry for almost a full 2 days now. So I'm pretty happy with the finish. It's hard to see just because it's almost sunset at the moment, but it's a nice satin black. Managed to paint all in there where the lights are. The black covers in there I'm going to swap out for brand new clear ones. They were pretty haggard and yellow, so that's why I just painted over the top of them for now. But yeah, I'll polish up these fog lamps as well. But yeah, pretty happy with it. It was actually pretty, it took a while, but it was an easy process. But yes, it's surprising how much of a good result you can get with a $200 bull bar. So hopefully it looks good on the car. The next thing we're going to do is make a video taking the bumper off and installing the bull bar. So that's what we'll be doing next. So hope you enjoy the video. Hope it gives you an insight into painting your own bar work, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.